This is the Nightwolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Skeletor, the evil Lord of Destruction from the 2000X cartoon collection. And here we see Skeletor, and he has two sides of his sword, which, if you know the lore from when the toys were being created, that was originally supposed to represent the Power Sword. On the back of the box, we see Panther and Battlecat fighting with Skeletor there in the middle and He-Man behind him with King Randor tied up at Skeletor's mercy, as seen on the beginning. By the way, if you haven't watched the 2000X cartoon, you really should. It is great. It is probably the best He-Man cartoon that they've done. You can fit his sword into his hand. As part of this wave, we have Skeletor, the evil Lord of Destruction, Zodak, the Cosmic Enforcer, and Prince Adam, the secret identity of He-Man. Well, that is a terrible line to have. Is that how they called him on the box back in the day too, from the vintage collection? Also, just looking at this picture, it looks like Adam does not come with a power sword, which is pretty fucking stupid if you ask me. Like, he has his own version of the power sword that's a little bit smaller if you watch the cartoon, and he should have that. All right, well, let's go ahead and open this sucker up, shall we? We have the usual white sheet that shows the parts that come off of him. Nothing unusual here. Aside from his skirt piece being like totally cockeyed on him. What the hell? This is my kind of luck, really. And then he's got a standard diaper. Not painted. And actually, there's only 3 of those little balls there. Is that original cartoon collection? Okay. There, we got a skirt piece looking like it's in the proper position now. So Skeletor's face here, our head is obviously 2 parts with the hood and the skull being different to get that picture. Whatever. Oh my god, the skirt piece just wants to slide back into the odd position there. Ugh, I might have to heat that up and redo it. By the way, just look at it. He's got normalist looking feet. I mean, like, shouldn't he have had clawed feet or some shit? I thought he had, like, you know, I don't know how many toes he had in the cartoon. I don't remember, and I didn't pay that much attention to feet in cartoons. I'll be honest with you. I don't have that fetish. His thing has little spikies here at the top, though. That's kind of cool. Although the hood is a different color from the harness here, which is kind of interesting. The only other purple is actually the skirt piece right here, which's got purple paint on it. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much like... Well, no, the legs are black. This is something like really dark blue, it looks like. This harness hooks on in the back here. We already know that these bodies are different from the Origins line. So let's set him aside for the moment so we can take a look at his weapons. He's got a brand new Havoc staff. The head is bone colored and the ram's horns are painted. It looks more like a nightmare version of a ram head than the regular version does. Or skull, I should say. But the design is still very similar. Then we have his 2 swords. So in the original toy line, this was basically what this sword looked like, but the other one had an eagle on it. Again, this is where I talk about how the original idea for the toy line for 2000X had been that Skeletor had gotten his hands on the power sword from He-Man. That's why we see the 2 halves. Going back to that old comic story. Man, that little bit of fleshing is really annoying me. And so you had the good half and the bad half. That's why there was an eagle on one and the goat head on the other. And then the sword He-Man uses was the electronic power sword built by Man-at-Arms with like the help of the sorceress in order to allow Adam to still become He-Man. So now we can put these 2 together And it definitely does not look as nice as the original version from the 2000X toys. Like in that version, the handles also connected together. There was a loop in them, so they kind of had a slight curve to them, but they did hook together. And the blades were designed so that they were at the same spot. As you might notice here, they are not flush with each other. So like in that other toy, the swords would have been like together like that almost. I mean, it still was an empty space in between them because it was two separate swords, but it did look nicer than this does. Of course, well, there it fell out. So Skeletor can fight with his two swords. Unfortunately, when he holds them in his hand and stuff, they both look exactly the same. That's the only problem with it, you know what I mean? So we got that. There is nowhere on his harness to put his sword, although we did regularly see him in the show with his sword on his back. So that's disappointing. I'm not sure why they decided not to give us some kind of a loop. Probably, though, it's because it would have been difficult to have something that looked nice and fit this. But you probably could have designed some kind of like peg system that would have allowed you to stick it through the pummel here, you know? And then we got the Havoc Staff. Articulation-wise, head's on a ball joint. You can look down. He can look back up. He can turn his head to the side. All that fun stuff. Arm hinges out. Arm hinges back. We can rotate it up and back like that. However, the fringe on his harness does get in the way of doing a full 360. Little less than, actually about 90 degrees on the arm there. We have a pin so we can swirl it. Spin the hand around. He has up and down articulation on the right hand and in and out on the left hand. And there his skirt piece went sliding right back over. I'm definitely going to have to heat this thing up. We can spin at the waist. We can kick forward. We can kick back. We can bend the knee. We have a boot cut. Whoa. We do have a boot cut, although on this figure it is strong enough that it takes the entire lower leg with it. We can have a hinge here at the bottom and a spin. Man, that is super obnoxious. And now, I'm not bringing out the actual 2000X Skeletor because I'm not actually sure I have one. I might, because I was after that power sword. But I do have the 2000X interpretation that we got with the original Origins line here, where, yeah, this one just really kicks this button's ass, like, instantly. I mean, some of the stuff isn't too badly done, though. I mean, I almost have to say, while this may not exactly be the same as in the cartoon, this is probably closer, but this looks better, honestly. At least for the bottom of the feet. Even the skirt piece is pretty nice on this one too, to be honest with you. But that head sculpt, man, I mean, I'm glad they gave us a new head sculpt for this one when they did the 2000X version, but it's not great looking. And then we have a sword here, which, by the way, I want you to note, evil side here, good side here. So this is where you can kind of see the eagle on this side, and then the same skull head on this side. And then also, like I said, the things came together like this. Yeah, there was still a hole in the middle here, or should have been. But this is also similar to how the blades or the handles worked on the other one, where one had a ball on the end and the other one had like a hand or a claw, so that they went together like that. So realistically, while this actually performs the way it's supposed to, this one actually looks better overall. And it's shiny. So it really is kind of too bad they didn't really do quite as good of a job on this sword as they could have. Now, this is based more on the toy, and this is supposed to be based on more on the cartoon, which, again, doesn't really function right because, the handle still isn't designed. and it doesn't line up like it should in the cartoon. But I don't know if they actually had the eagle head in the cartoon. I'd have to rewatch it to find out. So as far as our Skeletors go here, I'll be honest, the 2000X cartoon collection version just blows the water out of all the rest of them. He is just kind of spectacular looking overall. Minus the problem with the damn skirt piece where I'm going to have to heat it up in order to get it to remold into the proper position. I just wish they'd done a better job on the sword for him. And you know, they probably could have gotten away with just like reusing the original sword mold from the old toys, because I think that probably would still fit in the hands. Not 100% sure on that one, but probably. Actually, yeah, I think it would, because now that I think about it, that power sword I got from Barbossa for my King Grayskull, that's just molded from the old 2000X, and it fits fine in a Origin's hand. Still, I like the way the sword looks on the 2000X version of the Origin vintage style one. But again, it doesn't function properly either, so it kind of loses on that bit too. It just looks nicer. But man, that original Origin Skeletor, that bright ass blue that they used for him is just awful. It really was. But why don't you guys let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this review, please feel free to havoc that like button. And if you want to hear more of my nonsense in the future, you can subscribe. Maybe you might want to even knock on that notification bell. Thank you for watching. Peace and love.